thank you for joining me today for a really important conversation, a serious conversation that might challenge you and it might confront you with some truths that are maybe uncomfortable. But I am so happy that we're having this conversation because it's a conversation that I'm missing on mainstream media right now. And the conversation I'd love to have with you today is around why no one is talking about the kids, at least not in mainstream media. We're not seeing all the research that is being done about the effect that this trauma, this global epidemic that we're all experiencing, is having on the weakest link of our society, and those are the young ones. So I thought it's high time that we get together and talk about this really important subject. So I have my serious glasses on, but I also have the color of hope on, right? So green. The intention for this call is not only to create an awareness about what is going on right now for our young ones, but also to show how we can step out of this drama and how we can help our children not only survive this global epidemic that we're all experiencing, but how to actually thrive. Because there's one thing that I know from years, decades of experience of helping people find their happy selves, find their happiness in life. There's one thing that I've learned. And that is that we all have adversity and challenges that we need to go through. And some of us have horrible challenges that we're confronted with even at an early age. But there's one thing that we all have in common: we have those challenges. But then it seems to divide out into two big groups. There'll be those that go through those challenges and somehow manage to come out stronger. They come out as the more loving versions of themselves, the wiser selves, the kinder selves. And then there's the other group of people who kind of stay stuck in that trauma and are not able to move on and somehow feel crushed or broken or somehow so impacted by this experience in the past that they're not able to enjoy life anymore. And I don't think I need to tell you that we see depression rates, suicide rates, the mental disease rates skyrocketing at the moment. And there's a lot of research out there showing that all these effects that we're experiencing on the planet right now are especially affecting children. And I'd like to explain to you why that is the case. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for also sharing with us now where you're tuning in from. There's one thing that I love about the Joy Tribe, so our Facebook group here, is that we are tuning in from all over the world. And that makes me so happy because it means that we are light warriors all over these countries, connected with that mission to create joy and spread joy. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being a member of the Joy Tribe. And if you're not a member yet, then head over. It's a free group. We'd love to have you there. And right now, I'd love to know where you are tuning in from. I know that we'll have many guests here from, hey, Austria, hi, Sandra. But I also know that there'll be many of my Dutch friends online, my Italian friends. And just know that we will, if I say something sensible today, also translate this or subtitle it into German and Italian. So go ahead and share this video if you at any moment find that I am sharing something that is important. Hi, Hasio, tuning in from Italy. See, I know my amores over there. I love having you all here. And yeah, I'd like to start out with just giving you some facts that are coming out right now. So we know that right now 8 million children go missing every single year. 8 million children. Do you know how that many that is? That's a whole country of children that are just vanishing. We don't know where they are. We're having horrific reports coming up about the pedophilia that seems to be rampant, especially in high power circles. And I think many of us are being really shocked at the names that we're hearing that seem to be connected to the Epstein scandal and this immense child trafficking and sex abuse that is going on. A huge topic. But then also we have little sort of things coming up like California declaring that there will be no more in-person schooling this year, which means that a bunch of children, millions of children, are going to have to rely on online schooling, homeschooling. And I think we can all agree that that is going to create a lot of stress in many people's lives because we all have maybe jobs that we need to go after too, right? And we're maybe not born teachers. So if you're maybe not the born teacher for your children, then know that I'm going to share some things with you that you can do regardless of if you have children or if you know children, things that you can do to help yourself to go through whatever challenges you're facing in a more graceful way, in a way that you can actually come out as the hero of your journey, because we're not meant to be victims of our life. I know that for sure. And I know that when we learn the lessons that the challenges are forcing us to learn, then we can actually get stronger and stronger by the minute, literally. Okay, so thank you for joining in on this conversation. And know that the University of Hamburg Eppendorf has just released a study showing that two-thirds of all children and youth right now are experiencing a decrease in their life quality. They're having trouble such as headaches, they can't sleep at night, they're experiencing anxiety, but also conflict with parents, because, you know, this whole lockdown created a lot of new dynamics in families where suddenly people who normally don't spend that much time together are in close quarters, right? And then we have the whole homeschooling thing as well. We are all experiencing some form of uncertainty and anxiety right now, maybe even because so much is shifting and changing the whole time, and we're being bombarded with so much information that is not necessarily information that is helping us feel more joyful, is it? Right? So I think this is really good to acknowledge, and I will tell you in a few minutes why acknowledgement of what is the first most important step that we need to take. We need to be able to see what is happening right now, and I'm grateful that you're willing to do that, and I know how much courage it takes. I really do. We also know that, you know, childhood trauma creates an often lifelong path of illness and disease. So when we experience trauma as children, this can affect our rest of our life, and often we're not aware of the connection. So know that that is the case, and it's been researched so much that we know that, you know, ongoing adversity in childhood creates a whole bunch of responses on a physical, mental, and emotional level. So we're in a constant state of fight, flight, and freeze, because you see, trauma creates that connection to our brain where our oldest part of the brain, the reptilian brain, is massively triggered, right? And in those moments of adversity, we only have those three choices usually. We can either fight the problem, we can flee, or we'll just freeze. But if we have that continuously going on, if we're experiencing a lot of stress, especially as children, then we can kind of stay stuck in that brain mode. And that is not the brain mode that we will find good solutions for the problems that we're facing. So we will actually create a lot of stress in our bodies, in our brains, and we all know that stress in long term then creates disease by creating inflammation in the body. So when our body creates inflammation, it's fighting something. And if we're fighting ourselves, or we're fighting the experiences that we have, then that will actually lead to a very unhappy life. So thank you for addressing this together with me, and also looking at the solutions that we have. We also know that Yale University has, for instance, proven that this stress creates a change in children's brains, right? Because that change in the brains creates this inflammation that we're talking about, and inflammation in itself then creates things like cancer and autoimmune diseases. Then at the same time, we have a country like America that is now saying that 2/3 of all Americans are experiencing and expressing childhood trauma. 2/3 of the population has been traumatized in childhood. And we all know that most of us are not getting the help that we need. But here's the good news. When we do get a physician, a doctor, for instance, who is willing to acknowledge the impact of childhood trauma, who's willing to listen to the trauma that we had, a beautiful thing happens. 2/3 of all patients experience that they need to go to the doctor less often. So they experience a decrease of doctor's visits by 2/3. That's amazing, right? And that's where the acknowledgement comes in. We need to acknowledge what is happening. But most of us are not trained to do that. We prefer to fight whatever's happening, or we prefer to flee whatever's happening, or we just stay stuck and numb. So in this quick little session that we're having today, and this conversation that we're having, I want to really encourage you to acknowledge whatever is going on right now. Whatever feelings you are feeling right now are important. Don't suppress them, don't dramatize them, just acknowledge them and say, okay, right now, if I tune in, I'm feeling, I don't know, a little angry, a little sad, a little worried, maybe a little anxious. What is it that you're feeling? Acknowledge the feeling. That is the first step that I take with all my children when I do the kids sessions of the Joyful Kids program. We say, okay, whatever's happening right now, what is it doing to you? What are you feeling in your body? And notice what happens when we do that. We're actually connecting to our bodies again. And this is an important thing to do because very often we can stay stuck in our brain. And Tony Robbins says if you're in your head, you're dead, because your brain is always going to give you gazillions of different messages that will often confuse you maybe. So we have to reconnect to this physical element of our bodies. We have to connect to our breath. We need to connect to our hearts again to be in tune, to be able to make use of our entire potential. And this is where another little interesting fact comes in. Because I was saying that, especially children deal with trauma in a different way, and trauma impacts them differently. And I want to explain to you why that is so. One element that really plays an important role are the brainwave patterns that we are in most of the time. So the brain can be measured, right? You can put some electrodes on and then you can see what frequency and what amplitude is the brain vibing in right now. And we can have a stressed brain or we can have a relaxed brain, for instance. And when we're normally in the talking mode, the doing mode, the busy mode, our brains are in beta. That is a very fast brainwave, right? It's very chaotic. But when we start to relax, we go into alpha. Now, alpha could be a state that you're in when you're driving a car or when you're doing some monotonous act, like, I don't know, ironing or cleaning, or even listening to music, watching TV. You are in a relaxed brainwave state, alpha. And I'll tell you in a minute why this is important. Now, when we relax even deeper, we will go from alpha into theta. Now, we know about the theta brainwave state, that it is the brainwave state that we go in when we are in meditation. It is the brainwave state we need to be in for our body to heal. Our body doesn't heal when we're stressed. Our body can only heal with a relaxed brain. So going into theta usually takes a bit of effort or a bit of training and practice, but children are in theta most of the time. And I'll tell you the brainwave states that children are in a moment. So the theta brainwave state, a golden brainwave state that we want to be in a lot of the time. Then when we relax even deeper, we go into delta. You and I can usually not stay awake in delta. We go into delta, we go into all these brainwave states when we sleep. Now, here's the important thing. Children up until the age of 2, so from 0 to 2, are in the delta brainwave state most of the time. Why is this important? Well, a relaxed brainwave state, so theta or delta, sometimes even alpha, allows the unconscious mind to open up. It kind of, imagine that the conscious mind, so that rational thinking, that little part of the brain that's kind of really busy and always telling you what to do, imagine that part stepping aside a bit. And then the unconscious mind takes over. Know that the unconscious mind is the one that's actually running your body. And the unconscious mind, you could imagine like this gigantic iceberg, that's underneath the water. The conscious mind is only 20% of our thinking. The rest of the show is run by the unconscious mind. So from 0 to 2, children are in the delta brainwave state. So that means they are highly suggestible and highly programmable. There's no filter between the conscious and the unconscious mind. It's kind of all one. So up until the age of 2, we're in delta. Then from the age of 2 until 7, we switch into the theta brainwave state. Still a highly suggestible, highly relaxed, and highly programmable brainwave state. You and I will have to go into meditation or a state of hypnosis to get into theta. But children are there until they're the age of 7, right? So that's why the first 7 years are called the programming years of our lives, because that's where the unconscious mind is filled up with all the beliefs about who you are not, what you can do, what you can't do. And then think back about how often we unconsciously speak to our children, maybe. Think about all the messages that you received until you were the age of 18. How many hundreds and thousands of times were you told who you are and who you are not? So often I have noticed in my coaching of really thousands of people from all over the world that those unconscious beliefs can totally mess us up. Because what if you, for instance, think you're not a smart person, or you're not a beautiful person, or you're not a lovable person, just because someone said that to you when you were in that relaxed brainwave state growing up, when your brain was still developing? Isn't it true that that belief will block you in so many areas of life? So what I tried to do with the Joyful Kids program is create a program that is not only cross boundaries, it crosses genders, it crosses religions, beliefs, language even. It's able to create that one brain, that whole brainwave state, so that we can actually take control of our lives and teach children those life skills that they need to be able to overcome adversity, to manage their challenges, to get out stronger, right? So these brainwave states are really important to acknowledge and to know that that is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with children. We have to deal with them differently, and we need to teach them tools to be able to manage their emotions. Because what happens when we feel highly emotional? Isn't it true that our whole body is kind of on fire and our brain is no longer able to access our highest wisdom? So the newer parts of the brain, the neocortex, the frontal lobe of the brain, is deactivated when we are highly emotional. So we have to learn how to deal with our emotions, and we need to be teaching this to children too. I can't understand why we're not teaching emotional balance, emotional management, how to overcome stress, how to release stress in schools. I don't understand it, because what we're doing now is we're shortcutting the youngest generation to ever become those leaders that this planet so desperately needs. And maybe you agree with me or maybe not, but I think the leaders of the most nations on this planet right now are not being led by healthy, joyful, and wise, compassionate leaders. They are being led by people who have traumatized themselves and now passing on this trauma. And I think it's time now to put an end to this disastrous cycle. So let's go back to the brainwave states. That's why children are so programmable, so vulnerable, especially in the first 7 years, because they're in deeply relaxed brainwave states. But when we're age 7, we switch into alpha, and that's still a relaxed brainwave state. And we stay in alpha until we hit puberty. And then when we hit puberty around the age of, it's getting earlier and earlier, but let's say around 12, 13, then we make that final shift into the beta brainwave state. Now, if we as children don't learn how to relax our brains, how to get into the meditative state, how are we going to learn it as adults is usually much harder work. Children, I know this from working with so many of them, usually have a real easy time visualizing, setting goals, tuning into something, because their brains are so, in that perfect state for it. So those brainwave states have an impact on our well-being. They have an impact on how much of the messages are going into our unconscious mind and how well are we able to filter. And usually we will reject those ideas that we need to accept, and we will accept those ideas that we need to reject. Isn't it true? Because we're usually not even aware of what's happening. And I hope that after this call today, you're going to pay more attention to what you're doing, what you're thinking, so you can become more aware of what's going on and then take real wise choices. Okay, so we talked about the brainwave states, but we have another physical element that plays a big role in child development and the reason why children deal with stress and show stress in different ways. And that is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body and maybe one of the most important ones. The vagus nerve is also the heart, brain and gut axis. It's the axis that connects all inner organs, the brain and the heart and the gut with each other. Now, the thing with children is that this vagus nerve connection is completely open. Children often complain about tummy aches, not feeling well in their belly when they're actually experiencing stress because of that totally open vagus nerve connection. Why is the vagus nerve important? Well, not only because it connects heart, brain, and gut and all the organs, but also because it is also it's also determining how we are able to respond to stress. So when we have a strong vagus nerve that is very flexible, very adaptable, we will be more adaptable to the stress and the challenges that we face. And we know one thing. The ones that are most adaptable have the highest chance of survival. So we want to be flexible. We want to be able to not acknowledge a situation, but then quickly find the solutions that are most appropriate. So this vagus nerve is something that you want to train. How do you train your vagus nerve? Well, by meditation, for instance, by pranayama, breathing practices, by connecting to that emotion of compassion, caring about another being, in a meditative state will actually train your vagus nerve. So doing nothing really has a lot of benefits. And that is also something that I like teaching children. Being able to meditate, what a powerful tool to have to be able to self-regulate. Okay, so we talked about the brainwave states, we talked about the vagus nerve, and we also know that once we get into adolescence, you know, that the shift is not over. And then our bodies start shifting, the biochemistry, the hormones in our bodies start shifting. So while we're in adolescence, we're still at a very vulnerable state. And this state of lockdown that we've experienced, social distancing and all that, has created a lot of problems, especially for the young ones, especially for adolescents who are so dependent on their friends, being able to hang out with their friends. Adolescents usually don't want to hang out with their parents that much. They want to be with their friends. And if we have social distancing and lockdown and not being able to see each other in place, then that creates a lot of stress in our bodies and mind. And why is that so? Because we all have a basic human need for connection. And even if we look at the most simple model of these basic human needs, and that is for me the Maslow pyramid, we will see that we not only have physiological needs, right? So we all need shelter, we need water, we need food, but we also have psychological needs. And in those psychological needs, we have safety needs. We need to feel safe in life. Now, do children who are maybe living in a violent environment, who are maybe dealing with a depressed parent, who are maybe having abuse at home, do they feel safe? No, they don't. So one of their basic human needs is not being met. And we need to be able to teach them how to find that safety within themselves, even in those horrific situations. So those psychological needs also have the belonging, the need for belonging and love in there. So we need to feel that we belong somewhere, that we have a home, that people care about us, that we can share who we are and reciprocate. That is all in those psychological needs. And again, not all of those needs are being met right now. Physical touch, it's a basic human need. A lot of us are not getting it, and especially when children are not getting that attention, or they're getting that attention in a negative way, it deeply scars them for life. Then on top of that, we have the top of the pyramid will have these needs for self-actualization. That means that I need to have a purpose in life. I need to be able to be creative. I need to feel that I matter. And that together creates the basic human needs that we have to have fulfilled to be able to thrive. And I think as we go through those needs, as we went through those needs, you can see that not all of those needs are A, being met right now, and B, we will not always get them met from our surroundings. So I feel it's high time that we're teaching, especially our young ones, the life skills they need to be able to self-regulate, to be able to give themselves what they need if they're not getting it from the outside. And when we do that, we're fostering a generation of new leaders that are able to be wise and compassionate. And I really think that's necessary right now. Okay, the other thing we've seen is that when we take away social contact in research, so we can only do this normally with animals, right? So this research was done on primates, so monkeys. We noticed that when we take away social contact from a primate, they will all start reacting in an anxious way. They will have a decrease in brain function. They'll not be able to memorize things very well. So social contact, the need to connect to other people, is massive. And right now we need to be able to help our children to do that in maybe a new way, because sometimes it's not possible in 3D. So I would like to share with you the 5 ways that we can help our children build mental strength and emotional maturity. And I've made 5 points because I feel they're so simple that we can all implement them in our lives. And I hope that this will help you moving forward to create a structure at home, maybe with your children or the ones that you take care of, so that you know you're actually building and flexing those 2 muscles, that intelligence of the emotional maturity, but also that ability to come from a strong mental background. So guess what number 1 is? Number 1 to create those 2 muscles is to assign chores to your children, to give them tasks to do. Now, children have 2 buckets that have to be filled for them to be able to function. And one bucket is the power bucket. They need to feel that they are in some way empowered to take care of themselves, to make choices. And this power bucket can often not be filled if, for instance, we are very controlling as parents, or if children are experiencing that they have no choice in life, that they have to just do whatever they're told. If that is so, then we often see conflicts coming from this lack of power, feeling of power, that we need to address. The other bucket that we have is an attention bucket. Every human being needs to have attention. They need to be seen, they need to be heard. And that attention bucket, if that's not filled, we'll often see children act up in rather, not so nice ways, because they prefer to have negative attention than no attention at all. So if we know that those two buckets need to be filled, we can see that by assigning chores, giving children a task to do, saying, I trust that you can get this done. You're part of the team. You matter. I need you, right? If you assign them chores, research has shown, and this is a 75-year Harvard study, that children who had chores fared better later on in life. So this is not only something that maybe makes family life and life at school easier, but it's actually something that's benefiting them, that they know that they can complete a task, they can stay on task. So assign your children some simple chores that are fair, right, and reasonable, so that they can actually feel part of the party. The second thing we need to be teaching our children is how to set goals. I always like explaining when I work with children that setting a goal, setting an intention is as important as it is, for instance, to be a captain of a ship and to tell your crew where it's going. Because if we don't set goals, if we don't set an intention, we can be like that captain on a ship with the ship, going aimlessly, floating through the oceans with nowhere to go. So teaching our children how to set goals is a beautiful thing. And that can be a very simple way, right? We could, for instance, in these summer months where many schools are closed and children have a vacation, we could say, okay, what is something that you would like to achieve in this time? And then maybe a child will say, you know what? I want to practice basketball every day for 15 minutes, or my instrument, or I want to do this, I want to achieve something, and then support them in those goals, make them write those goals down if they can write, make it visible, and keep them accountable, remind them of that goal, and you motivate them to stay on it, right? The third thing we want to teach them is healthy self-talk. I am so surprised at what a young age we already start talking negatively to ourselves. Like, oh, I'm just so stupid, or, oh, I'm so clumsy. Think about it. Maybe you're saying it as a parent or as a caretaker and the child is copying it from you. God knows where they got it from. But stop it in its tracks. Tell children that's not how you talk to someone who you love. And I trust you love yourself. So what nice thing could you say about yourself? What brag do you have? What are you proud of? What are you grateful for? Make sure that the moment you notice negative self-talk within yourself or with your children, that you help them reframe whatever they said. Okay, the next is we want to practice healthy coping skills. So let's take an example. Say you have a child that is struggling with some anger issues. You could, for instance, have this conversation with this child and then say, listen, I've noticed that you seem to get very angry at times, and I'm wondering if you enjoy that anger, or if you would like to have a healthy way of dealing with it, because right now I'm noticing it creates a lot of stress. Is that true? And if you have a child that is open to talk about these issues and would like to change that kind of behavior, you could suggest a simple tool for them to be able to find their center again, to connect back to who they really are and let them let go of the emotion. And this is a very simple tool that we could do right now together. And it's even more powerful if you tune into some emotion that you have right now. So I don't know, maybe, and it's something that I said really triggered you. You feel some emotion in you. Maybe, I don't know, you don't like green, you don't like my glasses, you don't like my accent, whatever. Take something that is creating a sort of stress in you and acknowledge that emotion, and know that an emotion is only energy traveling in your body. So it's not personal, just notice. Okay, good. And now, as you have acknowledged this feeling, let's also determine the size of the feeling. Let's say, is this feeling tiny little? Is it small? Is it medium? Is it large? Or is it extra large? Just notice. Okay, you got it? Okay, so now let's switch it, right? Let's change that emotion, release the negativity, and embrace our happiness, our joyfulness. Yeah? Okay, so then start doing this move. You take your fist and you punch it in the palm of your other hand, and then you switch left and right really quickly. What this does is it actually gets you into a whole brain state. So your left and your right brain hemisphere are now actually talking to each other, and that's what we want. So then you say something nice to yourself, like, all is well. Try it out, all is well, and say it loud and say it with conviction, all is well. How about, I am good? I am good. I am good, all is well, I am good, all is well, I am good, all is well, all is good, I am good, all is good, all is well. That's right. Okay, and now smile and breathe. And now remember that happy feeling that you had maybe as a child when your mom or dad hugged you, or it was your birthday, or you saw a beautiful bunch of flowers. And now breathe into your heart. And release, find your center, tune in, and notice what happened to that emotion. See if you can still find it or if it has gone now. Okay, and just notice. And notice that you can do that again and again and again. So if you were able to create a shift, and I'm almost 100% certain that you could if you were, in this and doing it, then you can do it again and again and again. And you just keep repeating until you're back into a positive state. And we want to be in a high frequency state. We want to feel joyful and grateful most of the time, because that's when we're creating good. If we're tuned into anger and sadness and overwhelm and stress most of the time, guess what? We're going to create more of that. So this power of creation that lies within every single one of us, I want you to acknowledge it. And maybe you can say to yourself, yeah, I am the creator. I am the creatrix of my life, and I own that. Okay, and then try something else. Say, I am love. I'm loved. I'm loving. I'm lovable. That's the kind of self-talk we want to be having. So try that out and do it every single time you notice you're going negative, and teach it to your kids. Okay, the fifth thing we want to be doing is we want to challenge our kids. We want to challenge them not by being perfectionists, not by expecting, excellence and then going, you have to do it like that. But it's kind of expecting excellence, but not being bogged down by perfection. Saying to your child, I have confidence in you. I trust that you could actually learn to ride a bike. You could learn to swim. You could learn to speak a new language. You could do this, you could do that. When we have confidence in them and challenge them, most children will rise to that challenge because they love growing. And we should all fall in love with growing again. Because when we grow, when we shift, when we change, we are expanding our field of influence. We're actually becoming better versions of ourselves. And the Joyful Kids program is all about that. Teaching our young ones how to believe in themselves, how to love themselves, take care of themselves, how to manage their emotions, how to set a clear intention, how to meditate, how to use the breath to calm the mind and the body, all those good things. And I've packed it all up in a one-day training that you can tune into anywhere from the world at any time. And we're in the process of translating it now into German and Italian so that we can reach more countries. But right now it's there in English. You can watch the free webinar. We'll be dropping the link into the comments. And I really would love to have you on board with all our hundreds of Joyful Kids ambassadors that are coming from all countries of this planet. And we're all connected with that desire to help the young ones. And if you feel that connection to your heart, if you feel that resonance with that topic and that mission right now, I'd love to have you on board. So check out the free webinar. You can sign up for the Joyful Kids training anytime. And after just one day of training, you'll get all the flowcharts, all the data that I have, a whole manual that explains the whole concept to you in detail. After you've done that day's training, you are a Joyful Kids ambassador. And I look forward to welcoming many hundreds of new Joyful Kids ambassadors really soon so that we can go out like this swarm of bees, spreading good, helping kids, because God knows they need it. So I really hope I touched your heart today. I was able to convey something to you that was helpful to you. If that is so, please go ahead and share this video so that we can reach more people. And now I'm just going to check the comments if you have any questions. So fire ahead if you would like to ask me something. I'm here for you. So I'm seeing here, children are so important for everyone. So cute and joyful. Yeah, good evening. Hi, good to see. Yeah, feelings that came up in our chat, grief and fear, but also gratitude, right? All the depth of the spectrum of the emotions I should think we'll have here. Another one tuning in from Italy. I'm so glad you needed this, Linda. I'm happy to see that. So do you have questions about the Joyful Kids program, about anything that I've just said, about anything you'd like to know? Then go fire ahead. I'll stay online for a few more minutes to encourage you to actually ask questions. I love questions. And as we do so, notice again that feeling that you maybe had at the beginning of this session, and notice how much it has changed right now. And then if you're willing to go on a little journey with me, what if you could imagine right now drifting and floating to your happy place? Maybe your happy place is a magical garden. Maybe it's a rainbow pyramid, or maybe it's a castle in the clouds. Go to your happy place and notice how safe you are, and how you can now very easily imagine welcoming in all your guides and helpers, all the resources you need, all that gratitude, all that confidence. And then imagine that all magical beings around you are sending you their love, telling you how loved you are, how lovable you are, and how lucky they are to have you as a friend. And you can now stay in that magical space for as long as you would like, just relaxing your brain, visualizing your best outcome, that bright, sunny future where you are your best self. I call it your quantum self. You're kind and you're loving. That's right, stay tuned into that. I have a question here from Silla from Hungary. What can we do if the child stays in negativity and thinks she can never be happy, is suicidal? Yeah, you have work to do, right? Because this is obviously, I don't think, something that will go very quickly, because the thing about our brain is that it's kind of an old elephant. So we know that to create a new habit in life, we need to do something for 90 days. When we do it for 90 days, it becomes automatic. So if you brush your teeth for 90 days, that brushing teeth will happen so automatically you might sometimes not even notice you're brushing teeth. So if we want to create a good new habit like thinking positive thoughts, we will have to stay at that for 90 days. Now, there are great ways how you can accelerate that, and that is that you use brain training. So know that while we're sleeping at night, we go in and out of all these relaxed brainwave states, and our conscious mind is asleep, which means that the unconscious mind, that big elephant, the one that's actually running the show, is wide awake. So you can use your nightly sleep time hours to listen to positive affirmations, to beautiful guided meditations, to sleep trainings, as I call them. And we've created a bunch of them. And in the Joyful Kids program, you'll get my favorite kids meditation. You'll actually get two. But in that kids meditation, I've included all the positive affirmations that we need to be aligned with to have a healthy, happy, and easeful life. So that is something that you could have running in the background at a barely audible level, right? Your unconscious mind is super smart. So you could play it twice as fast and backwards, and your unconscious mind would still understand. So running a sleep program like that on a loop throughout the night is a great way to train the brain. And that way you can speeden up the process and make it more easeful. Is this program also for young children from 0 to 4? It is. The program was technically designed to help children from the age of 3 to 12. That's kind of our main core group, because that's when we're most vulnerable. But of course, you can also use this for younger and older children. So especially working with younger children, with babies, we work a lot with tapping the points. So this is one, right? Or we tap on the body. But then if it's a baby, for instance, you can tap the points for them, and you can tell them the affirmations they need to be hearing. So there are lots of ways that we can work with younger and older children and still get the benefit, because this program actually works if you're 105 too. It's all about the brain. This is just how our body and brain function. So by recognizing those ways and respecting them, we can create immense success in short periods of time, because we're working with the brain and not against it. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Any other questions? The other thing I'd like to tell Scylla about, children suffering from depression, actually any adult suffering from depression as well, is I would definitely check out the Healy. The Healy is a fabulous little tool that it works on frequency medicine. It's a medical certified device, and it has been approved for the treatment of pain, skeletal pain, fibromyalgia, but also the treatment of depression, anxiety, and sleep disorders. So the Healy is a wonderful support tool that has shown incredible results, especially when working with depression. If you'd like more information about that, simply send us an email at healy@crystalline.com, and I'll put it in the chat, maybe even right now or after. There we go, I can put it in now. So this is the email address that you want to send us just a quick email to, so that we can send you all the information about this really incredible little tool that works with frequency medicine. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. So my loves, I like closing circles now that we've opened up such an important topic and we've talked about it in many different aspects. I'd like to again extend my invitation out to you to watch the webinar. It's for free, and to join my Joyful Kids program to become a Joyful Kids ambassador. And as we close our circle, let's tune into 528 Hertz. Hi Sandra, oh, you've registered for September. That's wonderful. We're doing a mastermind and Sandra is in. I'm really psyched about that, because that is the group of ambassadors that want to go deeper. And you can still join. It's a small group, so be quick, but yeah, we're there for you. Okay, so let these 528 Hertz really connect to your heart. Maybe take one more precious breath in and out. And imagine you could bless every single one of your trillions of cells with so much self-love that your energetic field, your aura around you starts beaming with light. The Healy can be used at any age. It can be used on animals as well, on buildings. Frequencies are always around us, so it's safe to use for children. Good question, thank you. Okay, and as you gather in all that beautiful love, maybe place your hands on your heart. There you go, and then let's all bless each other. May all beings feel safe. May all beings feel healthy. May all beings feel happy. And may all beings live life with ease. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for making time in your busy day to connect with me. And I look forward to hearing from you. And thank you so much for sharing my mission of spreading joy. I love you. Bye-bye.